Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants of the conference, greetings.
Ukraine, justice to be served. Ми розпочинаємо нашу конференцію з
So we start a conference with the national anthem of Ukraine, so do please stand up. Dear guests, every day at 9 a.m. we pay tribute to all those Ukrainians, all the civilians and military, adults and children, innocent citizens of Ukraine, those who defend us at the front line, special services representatives, medics, journalists, volunteers, and activists, and all those who died because of the recent shelling of Chernihiv. So let us pay the tribute to them with a minute of silence. Thank you. Thank you. You may take your seats. So we start the conference, and the key topic of today's conference is justice. Justice, which is one of the components of the presidential peace formula, Zelensky peace formula, and one of the key blocks is to establish a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, where the top management of Russia, political management, will be held liable for their crimes. So, who is opening our today's event? Denys Shmygal, Prime Minister of Ukraine. He will open this conference. Denys, please, you're welcome. So, dear colleagues, dear participants of the conference, guests, since the very first days of full-scale war, we've been talking about payback and justice as a part of our victory. So we can't have peace without justice. Justice is impossible without responsibility of those who are responsible for the crime and aggression. So responsibility or liability is one of the key components of the formula of peace presented by President Mr. Zelensky. This war is one of the most brutal in the history of civilization because Russia is leading this war against all Ukrainians, women, elderly people, children, even those who are not born yet. Since February 2022, our enemy committed more than 136,000 crimes, something that we managed to document, but so many more of these crimes, so many more of these. Approximately 11,000 civilians died during this period. Out of these, as of now, we have more than 500. These are kids who died because of the war. And this is not the final number. 20,000 kids at least were illegally deported to Russia. They took them away from their parents. They made them actually orphans. Russian barbarians destroyed more than 116,000 objects of civil infrastructure. Thousands, dozens of thousands of residential premises, schools, hospitals, kindergartens, thousands of tons of people actually were left without any support. How can we respond to that horrible thing that we haven't seen since the World War II? What answer should the world give to that? How should the world respond to that? Not repeat it ever again. We together have to establish the mechanism to ensure justice and responsibility, to cover all the criminals, those who gave orders and those who was actually performing those orders. Unfortunately, the world has been tolerating Russian aggression for a long time. They're a terror. We have to act. We have to punish those who are guilty. We need to have a special international tribunal for the crime of aggression, and we will hold the top political management of Russia liable for it. Today we're discussing the modality of the tribunal. We're still in the process, but nobody has a doubt that it will be functional. It will work. The core groups, the establishment core groups, we have 38 countries there. In Hague on July 2nd, we had the interim prosecutor's office opened, and they collect facts for the trial for this crime of aggression, and we're working on that again. And one important statement for us, Russia has to pay. Russia has to pay for all the losses and damage it inflicted on our people. It has to pay for our recovery. And we offer the concept to the world, the concept of international compensatory mechanism. It has to comprise the registry of losses, compensatory committee, and the fund. The first element is established on the basis of resolution of the General Assembly of the United Nations. The International Registry of Losses, 42 countries joined the process of its establishment, the European Union. We really expect to do it very quickly, with other structures as well, of the compensatory mechanism. The key issue is, where shall we take money from to compensate? There's a simple answer: from Russian frozen assets. These are. For Russia, it's really important that our partners stipulate and envisage necessary tools in their legislation for us to get the money. It's also about justice. We need to punish the criminals, and we must make them pay. Two key things we have: recover Ukrainian economy and our infrastructure, of course, no doubts. We have to do it at the expense of aggressor. Altogether, we have to create a precedent of holding the guilty people liable. And the world must become a safe place, but it will be a safe place only if we make the proper conclusions out of this Russian aggression. Please, ladies and gentlemen, today our big task, all those who are responsible for this on this planet, to stop the evil and punish the evil, for a peaceful future of our children, for the development and prosperity, and we will definitely reach that. Thank you for your attention, and glory to Ukraine and glory to heroes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Denys. Thank you, Denys. Thank you for opening this event. Andriy Yermak, the head of the presidential office, is right now in the business trip together with the president, but he sent us his welcoming words, so please, your attention.
Glad to greet you here. Our conference is called Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggressions against Ukraine, Justice to be Served. The title says that justice must be served, but justice requires punishment for the guilty, and above all for those who unleashed this horrific war. Responsibility and retribution are an extremely important component of the President Volodymyr Zelensky Ukrainian peaceful formula. We demand justice for every tortured and killed Ukrainian, for every destroyed house, for every tears of the Ukrainian child. Every criminal has to stand trial. Our law enforcement agency and the International Criminal Court are working on this. There are several perpetrators of these crimes. On the one hand, there is the executants and Russian soldiers who has come to Ukrainian land to kill, or an operators of Russian missiles launcher. On the other hand, there are those who committed the fundamental crimes, the crime of aggression. We know how to bring to justice both the executants and those who unleashed the aggressions. But the world order and international law to prevail, we need your help to change history. We need to bring the criminals out the darkness into the light. You can do it. You can do the history, and it is up to you to decide it how quickly to bring to justice these bloody-minded people who is commit mass act of unacceptable barbarians in the 21st century. To punish Russian top political leadership, as a special international tribunal needs to be established, and Ukraine, together with its partner states, is doing everything possible to achieve the goal. But it is also extremely important for us to establish a separate tribunal for the Russian top authorities to try them for the crime of aggressions. We call all civilized nations of the world to stand up for the justice. And in this matter, we rely on the leadership of the entire civilized world. We need to break the chain of wars, whose large-scale terrorist attacks, energy, food, and nuclear blackmail, cyber attacks, and the political assassinations that the Russia is bringing to the world. Other potential aggressors must understand that war's crimes will be inevitably be punished. It is crucial preconditions for security and safety of all humankind. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini!
А далі хочу передати
Now I'd like to pass the floor to the authors of the Special Tribunal. He's the coordinator of the working group on the establishment of Special Tribunal on the crime of aggression of Russia against Ukraine, Deputy Head of the Office of Ukraine, of the Office of the President of Ukraine, to Andriy Smyrnov. Thank you. Good morning. Happy to see all of you. Dear friends, colleagues, international partners. I was preparing a speech, but I'd like to say a few personal notes. We started our work right after the escalation of the aggression last February. It was very complicated because at first there were doubts. We were not believed. And they were discussing the appropriateness of creating a special tribunal for the crime of aggression. Today, the world is not in doubt about the establishment of this tribunal, because this is the bloodiest, the strongest crime committed after the Second World War, and it requires the severe punishment for the supreme political military leadership of the aggressor country. So what have we done over the past year and a half? We have received significant international support. I won't be able to give you the number of political decisions made by the Parliamentary Assembly, European Parliament, NATO Committee, the decisions of the parliaments that were ratified by many international partners in support of the special tribunal. The only question we still have on the table is the model of its operations. I'd like to briefly inform you, as you already know, there is a coordinational group made of 38 international countries, and they gather on a monthly basis to discuss the model of the future special tribunal to hold accountable those perpetrators that committed the crime of aggression. There are three models. One is the decision of the General Assembly of the UN, and it's the most widespread, the most authoritative. The second model, that's the declaration of Ukraine in the form of the international agreement that Ukraine would be offering to the international countries, and by signing it, by ratifying it on our territory, Ukraine would offer the contents for the model of the establishment of the tribunal. This is a long and complicated process. It's something like a Nuremberg process. Now, the third model is the hybrid model. This was something on the air for over the past half a year within the coordination group. And this is something that Ukraine is not happy with. It provides for the establishment of a tribunal as part of the court system of Ukraine. There's significant risks, even from the legal standpoint, because during the martial law period we cannot introduce amendments to the constitution, we cannot provide for a new international type of court. The third risk is more considerable. The establishment of a tribunal which is part of the court system of Ukraine will reduce the legal assessment of aggression as the interstate conflict, which is very risky. And third, rhetoric. We do not need a decision of the tribunal in the name of Ukraine. We need a decision in the name of the whole civilized world. And that is why we've gathered today to have the leading experts, the lawyers, the scientists, in order to discuss the model which is the most favorable, the most authoritative, the most legitimate, in order for those guilty to hold accountable. The crime of aggression is the global catastrophe, just like the war itself. And we need to finalize the agreements with the key international partners on the form and model for the international tribunal to operate. This is something the Ukrainians need, this is something our military want. This is a tribute to all those Ukrainians, men and women and children that were killed as the result of this war. So let us have a fruitful discussion, let us express our thoughts, and hopefully we'll have a high-quality communique as the result of our discussions. Thank you, Andrii. Please stay on the stage because you are the moderator of the first panel discussion, so please stay with us. And let us also extend words of gratitude to the Prime Minister for his participation in the conference. So thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.